Oh, now you got me wanting to pause mine.
Look at this big old beer I got.
Holy smokes.
Let me see this thing.
It's bigger than my head.
I got this one.
I'm down to my last of scotch here, man. I got a whole nother bottle, but I'm saving it for next week. We should start recording. We're losing material here. Okay, everything's going. Boom, 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 boom. It's Thursday night. It's episode 121 of PHP Ugly. I'm your host, Eric Van Johnson.
I'm your host, Tom Rideout.
Damn,
121. What happened to 1 through 120?
You were drunk. It's fine. Don't worry. I think you had kids. John Congdon.
Oh, that's me. Hi.
Hey.
How are you all doing?
You are listening to the premier PHP podcast.
You could tell by this opening.
The best podcast that's recorded Thursday nights, late night, West Coast time.
In San Diego.
There's no other podcast meeting those parameters for PHP that's better. I'm just putting it out there. Anybody want to try to create a Machine Gun Kelly diss track on us about it? Bring it. We are the Eminem of Thursday night PHP podcast, West Coast, 10 o'clock at night.
You could have
just saying it.
You could have just said you didn't want to record tonight.
Just saying it. Bring it. Anybody. Let's talk about it. What?
Can we officially delete mine and Eric's columns from Trello?
Sure.
Like,
did you see I moved mine over? I'm just trying to get it out of the way. Thomas is like holding on to that hope that we're going to continue to use. Don't delete mine.
I use it to keep track of my topics.
Yeah, don't delete mine because I have the occasions I do it post there. Oh, how's everybody doing? Hey,
stressed.
It's less than a week from Wave until the wave comes crashing down.
If you're listening to this on your podcast app, you're possibly missing Wave PHP.
I hope you're listening to it as you fly to Wave PHP because Thomas is going to have all this done and edited. So as you get on the plane, you can listen to us ramble until you get to beautiful San Diego.
Yes, this is your in-flight entertainment. That's why this episode's 2 hours long.
Oh, man. Can you believe it? Less than a week away.
I am losing it.
Oh, what are you losing it? You just got to relax, brother. Come on out and have a good time. You're surrounded by...
You can't be losing it because Eric and I are losing it. We're losing everything.
I lost the car because, we had to use something for collateral.
Stole a Vespa. It's just gone downhill.
Oh, jeez.
Now, you know I'm agoraphobic. I have some pretty severe anxieties.
But you fly into the airport. We will pick you up and bring you to the hotel, and then you just stay right there.
That's not the part that's bothering me.
Who's picking who up, John? I already established we weren't doing that.
The part that's killing me is deadlines. I have an issue with having to be somewhere at a time, and airplanes are just the worst. Where it's like I'm in a hurry.
You're flying on Tuesday. You're not getting to the conference till Thursday, from what I understand.
No, I got my tickets straightened out. I'm going to be there for the training day.
I haven't seen that in my email yet.
Are you sure about that? Because I cannot.
Oh, look at that!
I cannot
verify.
Wait a second. Oh, hey.
Oh, nope. That was our other good friend.
Oh, look at that ticket that just came in.
Conference only. No training day. What the hell's wrong with him?
I don't know.
No, it's going through accounting right now. There's 2 requests for the training day. They asked the front end guys if they wanted to do training day, and I recommended that they go to the Vue, building a spa with Vue.
By Daniel. Yeah, yes. I like Daniel's a very cool guy. We met him at Longhorn in Austin. He's one of the guys who organized Longhorn. Very well spoken, just had a kid. Great guy. Great guy.
I don't know
You're
how
gonna
he's
love him.
making it out here.
And this isn't the only one. He's doing the whole circuit, man. I tell you.
Jeez, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But good on him.
So less than a week, John. Less than a week. Oh man, we're getting things in the mail. We're getting like t-shirt bags and
t-shirts are in, bags are in, lanyards are in. The schedule boards are ordered and hopefully be ready on time. There's a lot that goes into this, and I don't know why we did it.
And there's a lot of last minute things like the schedule. I mean, we could have possibly done the schedules a little sooner, but you got to make sure that people don't cancel, that you don't need to move schedules around. So you kind of hold on to it to the very last second, which is what we did. Same thing with like badges. It's like, you kind of wait, even ordering like the t-shirts and stuff. You're kind of waiting because you want to see, like, you don't want to over order. You don't want to order too many, which would be what over ordering means. So you kind of sit there and wait.
Clarification.
I over ordered too few once.
Yeah. So it's
took me weeks to recover.
It's been interesting. It's been very stressful, but fortunately, John's been bearing the brunt of it. I was worried because I thought he was kind of like quiet in the early days of the conference, and all of a sudden, like, he's doing everything. Like, I have literally done nothing the last week except.
What are you talking about? You're the one calling and finding printers and.
Okay, I did. Yeah, that was it. But I mean, really, like ordering the shirts, even talking to the printer. John is just taking the ball and completely.
Although the design on the back of the shirt was your idea. I mean, not your original idea, but it was a good segue into what came out of that. So I like it. I mean, for being semi last minute, it's a good design.
Thank you. I really like our logo.
Did you get any PHP Ugly shirts printed up?
No.
Hey, remember when we were talking about my fragile mental health?
Are you paying for it?
I'll buy a PHP Ugly shirt.
I'll bring in a PHP sticker and we'll throw it on your shirt for you. How's that?
Do you know how much t-shirts cost?
Yeah, about 25 a piece.
Yeah, well, it's not cheap, especially when you're talking about lots of people.
I used to work at a print house.
Okay, well, multiply that by the number of people that'll be at the conference. It's a lot of money.
Okay, $200.
Not far off. That's pretty damn close. Jackass.
You guys are the ones who've been saying it over and over on the podcast. We need to sell more. This is going horribly.
Well,
we do need to sell more. Yeah, we need sponsors. If anybody wants to step up as a last minute like angel sponsor, let us know. It would definitely help. Well,
you gotta start going door to door at skyscrapers downtown.
Well, we almost did that. We had our intern just start calling. If you posted a job posting looking for a PHP developer, our intern was calling that company saying, "Hey, you're looking for PHP developers. You might be interested to know there's a conference."
Buttery Crumpets wants to know if we'll be recording the talks.
We've good.
Yeah, we were just discussing that today. We're not going to do any elaborate recording, but we're trying to throw together like a last minute, like cheapo recording thing.
Possibly,
but we've got so much going on.
We haven't checked into any sort of like legal issues with that. Do we have to clear it with the speakers? Do we have to?
Yeah, that's true. We did talk about that, didn't we?
What's it going to cost us? Because we're already so far upside down on this thing. I'm not spending any more money on the conference.
Yeah. You bring up something I wanted to talk about, Thomas. Buttery Crumpets. the Discord channel. You may notice if you're watching us live, the chat has been disabled because our Discord channel has just taken off, man. I am so blown away with how many people we have in our Discord and how many people
What's
are
Discord?
just talking through the week.
Every time.
It's the gamer version of Slack, John.
Why don't we just use Slack?
Because it's free.
I'm not a gamer. I'm not a gamer.
Yes, you are. I've seen you. He plays Rocket League. Did you know that, Eric?
Hey.
No, he doesn't. He's reassured me that that he's moved on from that cheating stage of our relationship and he's gotten it out of his system. So
there's a good question for you. Is our psionics friend going to be attending?
That was our last minute ticket buy as we started this show.
Oh,
that's what we were just
nice.
talking about.
Except I realized he only purchased Thursday, Friday tickets, not the whole enchilada.
Yeah.
Wait, there's going to be enchiladas?
Yeah,
there might be.
There might be
No.
enchiladas.
It's not. There is a Mexican lunch, but I don't know if there'll be enchiladas on the menu.
Lunch served on the beach, as lunches should be served.
Yeah, there was some confusion about that from my boss earlier today. He was looking at the locations on the schedule, and it would say location La Jolla, location Torrey Pines.
If it helps your boss out at all, Thomas, there was confusion from the Bahia as well. They reached out to us and said, "Hey, your conference isn't being held in the La Jolla room." I'm like, "What?" we just named it.
We haven't talked about this, but your response to her was, I read that and I was cringing like, oh my God, that's so harsh.
How was that harsh? Wait
Because
a minute. Let's critique
Hold the phone.
this.
Eric's a dick.
Let's critique this.
Roll it back.
I don't think it was harsh. She was harsh by
harsh.
saying she was looking at a different conference. All I said was the link John sent. I am so horrible with that sort of thing. The link John sent you, and I restated the schedule link from Wave PHP is very much the correct link. And
It's very much the correct link.
Our conference at the Bahia. It's like, that's not harsh. I'm like, I just want to be clear. That is the right link, and that is our schedule.
To me, it came across very harsh.
To you, everything I say comes across harsh. Like when I call you an asshole, you're
Yes,
like, that's so harsh.
Yes.
Well, whatever.
Like when my
So, yeah,
son throws his arms up and says, "Everything's my fault."
She freaked me out because she sent us an email saying the link that you sent was me to a
Was for a
conference
different conference.
at a different hotel is what it said.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, what? So it turns out the Bahia has rooms named, at least the La Jolla. I don't know if they have a Torrey Pines. And
We didn't want conference room or room A or room B or whatever they had.
Yeah, you
So we
should have gone
tried.
with that.
I wanted beach and bay, but I was over
Or that.
Beach and Pay would have been better.
See, where it got confusing is that my boss was under the impression he was going to have to drive for an hour and a half to get to the next room for the conference 10 minutes after this one ended. So it was either track A or track B because there was a long drive between them.
La Jolla and Torrey Pines are right next to each other. It's not that long of a drive, really.
They're nowhere near.
It's through a wall. You're all right. Everything is on the top floor of a single building. You don't have to go anywhere.
You
It's
don't even
fine.
have to leave the building.
You don't know how much that pleases me.
We were trying to be cute on the naming, and turns out we failed miserably.
That's on me. That's totally on me. I didn't even get approval from John when I named him. I just named him.
Yep. We got the artwork for the signs, and I was like, what's this? All right.
But
wanna
I'm
talk
glad that's
a little bit
clarified.
about the fact that the reason we live stream was such a afterthought. Like, we were looking for different ways to record our podcast, and we ended up settling on Google Hangouts years ago. And it just had this feature where you could live stream it to YouTube. So we're like, well, yeah, let's just do that, and why not? I have to admit, for a live stream PHP podcast that starts recording at 10 o'clock at night on the West Coast, we get a good amount of live people watching us live and talking with us in Discord. Last week, I was just blown away with how many people were communicating with us in Discord. Did you guys?
What's Discord?
Jesus Christ, Thomas! Did you see what I posted earlier, asking kind of the channel? And if you do participate in Discord, look back to about 11:10 a.m. today, 11:09. I posted a question to Discord where I was thinking about it, and I actually had this thought before when we opened up the YouTube chat, which is no longer. I don't see the point of having that anymore, so I've disabled it. But we like it when people interact with us live on the show because we don't really have a lot of content. We're kind of shooting from the hip. This is all bullshit, you know? So when people actually reach out to us...
Don't admit it.
Okay. What Eric's trying to get to is that he was wondering if we could use people's names from Discord when they were asking questions. And I think Buttery Crumpets and Frontal Nougaty are going to be okay with us using their names on air. I mean, I'm throwing it out there.
I know that. I know Frontal's real. You know Frontal's real name too. You always made fun of it, saying it's Ilias.
The Nuge.
But just coming up with a because they might not always want us to reference them when they share something that might be a little controversial. So I was just trying to establish some sort of standard of, hey, if there's something you want to share, but you don't want us to mention your name, even though you are typing it in Discord, so anybody part of Discord can see it. But to come up with some sort of, down low sort of hashtag, or
if you're coming to our podcast under the assumption of getting something you're looking for, you've already made a gross error in judgment.
I'm just saying I don't want to be throwing people under the bus. That's all I'm saying.
Okay,
the Lord himself gives permission. It's okay.
People under the bus said he did not want his name used.
I'm pretty sure that's why our Aussie friend doesn't join us anymore, because we kept referencing his name too often. So
and then you got him fired.
Well, YouTube has a real name policy, though. Discord doesn't.
YouTube does, really? I didn't know that.
Point. No. And I think you can actually change your name in Discord, right?
Yeah.
Per channel. Like I think I can change my name in this particular channel. Change nickname, yeah, right there. Call me buttery nudity.
You're just a number in the end.
Frontal buttery.
Right. We're spending way too much time on something called Discord. I don't even know what that is.
I have something I want you guys to weigh in on, because I saw a new PHP package today that I don't know if I love it or not. It is.
I don't see it on your Trello board, so I don't know what you're about to say.
Well, it is on the Trello board. It's called Safe PHP.
Of course it's on his Trello board. Everything's on his Trello board.
Safe PHP, throwing exceptions instead of returning false. And this is not a guide on how to code better. This is a library that wraps PHP core functions. And if that core function would return false, it throws an exception instead.
I don't hate it.
I don't know.
I'm torn on that as well, because I keep preaching to the team that I feel returning false is bad. Because if you get something back, you're expecting whatever that returns, whether it's a string, an object, or whatever. unless it's supposed to return a Boolean, returning false is pointless because you're.
Now, this is the thing though. This is not about user land code. This is about PHP core functions that have default bad behaviors. So the first example, they give here, the first example they give here is file_get_contents. If that method cannot read the file, it just returns false instead of throwing an exception, which, as you can imagine, is extraordinarily bad.
Right. So by default, you're supposed to do that and then check if it's false first, and then use the
try catch, right?
Right.
Well, no. Now you can do a try catch.
Yeah, try catch doesn't work, and so this is interesting to me because it's changing the behavior of core methods of PHP, but it's kind of fixing them. I feel like this should be a PR as well to like an 8.0 branch, because what it is doing is
that's not going to be 8.0. That might be 9.0.
That's fixing old bad behavior.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of thing I could easily see this getting rolled into Laravel for a next major version.
Laravel will never accept that. They can't.
But, yeah, and again, it's I still like it. I still like it. I think I like it. I mean,
I like it conceptually. The main project I work on, that's still a big thing they do, even though I've been preaching this specific thing forever.
Well, and I want to explore that too, John, because like Tom said, this isn't userland code. This is PHP code, but
no, it is userland code. It's me using. Well,
I mean, I understand the practice in userland, but this package is the thing that interests me. This package is the thing that overwrites base, core components of PHP to throw exceptions.
So you have to go. You'd have to go and change every function that they are overriding.
Would you?
Where this gets weird though is when you start including packages. When you including packages from Composer, I think that's where you can get some strange, unexpected behavior.
Oh, you have to call. So when you're using file get contents, you have to use function safe JSON decode or file get contents. So it won't break your existing code until you're ready for it to break it.
Right. You can bring in components one at a time.
Even if you bring them in, you still have to change your class to use that function as that function.
No, because if you include the namespace, it'll automatically override the default namespace of /, which actually is recommended now. Have you seen that article too, that you should add / to all of your built-in PHP functions, a leading /?
Yeah. Well, it's supposedly faster as well.
Right, because it circumvents the autoloader.
Right.
But if you look in their GitHub repo, you can see each method that they have created this exception version for, and all you have to do in an existing application is include the namespace for the new overriding method. Right. So you can go through it step by step, one piece at a time, and make sure it all works. I mean, it's a really well thought out solution for the issue. It doesn't just override everything by default. It overrides the selected things that you have an issue with. It's
overriding the selected things in the selected file is what I was saying. So you're not going to put this in Composer JSON and all of a sudden break your application because you have a file get contents in some other file you're not thinking about.
From what I can tell, if you included it in your Composer, nothing would happen until you started changing files.
Right. Exactly. The more I'm reading through this, the more I'm liking it, because you're saying I want this behavior in this class and this class only, not across my entire project, not across my entire system. You're not including an extension that affects everything across the board that you're not prepared to use.
Yeah. No, I'm really intrigued by this idea, and I'd love to be able to. I know I don't do a lot of exception-based development.
No, you don't.
No.
You don't do a lot of custom exceptions.
No, I've
Okay.
got into it for a short period of time, but I feel like if I just wrote it right in the first place, then I would never have to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some code that there are a lot of different types of exceptions that happen, but the problem is I ended up making all of those exceptions extend from another type of exception so that it all gets handled the same way.
Nice.
But now I know exactly why it got why it got thrown. It's a weird state to be in, but
You invented Bugsnag.
yeah, basically. No.
I'm worried about Bugsnag. I have to do some deep dive shit into the IronQ library that I've been working on. That I'm just dreading because I'm getting reservation timeouts and it's not talking politely with Laravel's timeout arguments.
I don't want to promote Bugsnag because I reached out to them to sponsor Wave PHP and they turned me down.
Were they dicks about it?
No, Eric, who was it that brought up it was some sort of legal issue? It was something like
No,
Bugsnag.
that wasn't Bugsnag. That was
It was Scrutinizer, wasn't it?
It was Scrutinizer. Yeah, Scrutinizer.
I reached out to them, and they said they would love to, but something with legal issues, and I was like,
for legal reasons, they couldn't.
Laravel,
like,
yeah.
This isn't PHP Ugly, you know. We're not sponsoring this.
Taylor has a restraining order out on us.
I don't know.
Too closely associated with Scrutinizer.
But going back to Bugsnag, I've had an error happening often in Bugsnag in some code that I maintain, and it's a weird sort of thing. And I put code in place to fix it, and I'll explain it in a second. I'm not being vague on purpose. I put code in place to fix it in one sense, but there's a way around it where you can still break it. And in this system,
you lost me.
Yeah, in this system, you can be an admin. You can own an organization. In that organization, you can have multiple people. Okay, so from your team page, you can act as that person. So if you're on my team, I can act as you.
Sure.
Does that make sense so far?
Sure.
So then you can start up a process where you're calling people. Now you as the admin acting, or me as the admin acting as you, can now switch back to my account. But because of sessions, I've now broken that process. Sessions. Yes. And so I made it where I can't click the button to say, okay, I don't want to act as Thomas anymore. I want to go back to my account, because now it says, hey, no, you're already in the middle of this session. You're not allowed to switch back. But there's nothing stopping me from opening another tab, logging in as me. And because people don't know how sessions in PHP work, as an end user, everything continues to break, and I get Bugsnag notices all the time from it. And it just floors me how many people actually do this.
It shouldn't.
But
users are extraordinarily creative in breaking things.
But why? I just don't get it. And so that's a question, you guys, because I haven't even started to research it. But can you tie a cookie or a session cookie to a specific tab?
No.
Isn't it's browser specific, right?
The only way you could do that is if you had a pseudo spa. So if you wrapped the whole session in a spa frame, and that frame never changed, but the contents within it did, then you could have.
But the cookie is still getting sent from that domain, right?
You wouldn't use a cookie. You would use something else, like a persistent port or local storage, like a randomly generated local storage ID or something.
Yeah, I guess from this I mean because what they're in and what's breaking is essentially a spa already.
I don't know if you remember these days, but at the origin of the internet, sessions were in your get vars.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
So you could do that. You could store the session string as a get var that you always passed with every link.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, that's why we don't do it anymore. It's terrible.
I have like ways or thoughts of how to get around it. I don't like most of them. So something to think about. It's a weird thing where that we need to think about, Eric, on that other application that we're building, the Greenfield app we keep talking about, is since it is organizations and teams with organizations, if you allow somebody to switch states, there needs to be thought behind that.
Yeah. I did want to circle back around to the discussion we were having with username code and the idea of returning false. You said that there are use cases for this, right, John? I mean, if you're returning
if you're returning a Boolean, yeah.
What do you do in the events where you are supposed to return something, but there's nothing to return? Like, let's say you're supposed to just return, I don't know, a string.
A string might be different. A string could be blank, but if you're expected to get an object specifically back, to me, you either return that object or you return false, because the code outside that called is expecting an object.
So you still would return false there?
No, I would throw an exception.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's one.
Because then it bubbles up. Even if my code doesn't handle it, something up the line will handle it. Otherwise, it just results in an error. And then hopefully somebody has bug snag or something like that.
If your method starts with the term is, then it can return false. If your method doesn't return, if your method doesn't start with the name is, then it has to return an object or an exception.
Or has.
Right. Is, has, all those possessive nouns. So, like,
really, if you're
is member is one that I have. Is member should return true or false.
I don't even care about is or has or any of that. If it's a method that returns Boolean, it can return true or false. Otherwise, you're expecting something else.
Which actually leads to the type hinting as well. Like if you've type hinted that your return is an object, then you have to return an object. Or you don't have to, but you need to return an object.
But you can have JSON or array return types. Like you could have a flag on something that would return either JSON or an array.
All right, so that's another great question, because that's something else I'm always torn on. I feel that's wrong. Like there should only be one return type.
I agree.
And I think most people that follow strict standards would agree with you. It's having a this or that is confusing, and it makes the outside code have to do some sort of checking, which adds cyclomatic complexity to that code, because it's going to have to say if this or that. I mean, if this, else that.
So this is sort of gets interesting too, is that there's also the hidden default methods for objects. So in Laravel's collections, if you return it and the endpoint expects a string, then it will toString it, which means JSON response. But then it has a method for toArray, which will return an array response. But then if you just call the object, it depends on the context of the call that you're in. And that's one of those areas where I think, yeah, PHP kind of does it a little weakly. Like the toString method, I feel, is too flexible, because it gets called whenever something asks for a string, and everything asks for a string.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting. I mean, I've been getting really into proper return types lately for my stuff. I recently read an article about using final on classes. That most of the classes you write should be final classes because you don't expect them to be extended, and the behavior within them depends on itself.
See, that's so interesting because I think it was a talk I attended. I don't remember how many years ago. Everything was your code should be protected, not private, because it could be extended, and who are you to stop somebody from extending it? And lately, everyone's telling me, no, it shouldn't be protected. It should be private unless otherwise stated. And I'm at a loss because I don't know which way to go.
I think if you're writing a library, well, we work in MVC. So to me, that's where the story ends. If you're on a controller, it's a final class. You don't want a controller in a controller in a controller. I have a base controller which establishes my constructors, so it wouldn't be final. Actually, would it be final? Because I wouldn't want to override the constructor.
I don't know. I haven't used final yet.
Buttery Crumpets brings up the idea. Buttery Crumpets brings up the idea of a result type, which I think a good framework could manage, where you've got expected result types of objects, a result object which has types within it. The collections in Laravel kind of do that. Collections are a collection in a sort of undefined state. And you can dump it as an array or as JSON or for each it as an object or for each it as anything. So I thought that was interesting. I don't know. Didn't mean to kill the conversation.
No, you did. Good job though. You're pretty good at that. Hey John, I got some bad news for you.
No, I don't want bad news.
Do you still use Google Inbox?
I do.
Or have you switched back to Gmail?
No,
I switched back to Gmail. I switched back to Gmail a couple months ago, and I have to admit I still prefer Inbox. So I'll go like I use Inbox on my mobile device, in my tablet, but I stick with honestly the reason I stick with Gmail on my desktop is because there's a Todoist plugin that allows me just to hit a button and it creates a to-do based on that email. And that's literally the only reason I use Gmail on my desktop. But Google Inbox is going away.
What?
They are discontinuing. Or do you not read my Trello board? I put the stuff in Trello and you don't even look at it. I don't even know why I bother. It's right there. Inbox is signing off. I got this. Yeah. So I figured you'd be disappointed. I knew you were a big Inbox person. And you turned me on to Inbox, and I like it. I still don't know. This is so typical Google. It's like, why are you getting rid of it? First thing, why did you create it? Like the chat clients. Why do you have 5 different chat clients? And then everybody starts to like.
How is it that we're in a Hangouts that isn't actually a Hangouts, but it's a Hangouts that's casting to YouTube?
Yeah. It's so weird. So so Inbox is going away, man.
March 2019.
It's
That's crazy.
Yep.
Well, and they're saying,
what did they learn that they're bringing into Gmail? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, see, they're saying they're bringing features into Gmail from Inbox, but everyone I know is complaining about the new Gmail.
Really? Well, do they use the Inbox? Because maybe they're not used to the features.
Their complaints are that it's really slow and crappy.
Yeah, it is, especially compared to Inbox. That was the thing about Inbox. Inbox was so quick. it was such a fast email client for the browser. When I went back to Gmail, that's the first thing I noticed too. It's like, oh my goodness, it's so clunky. It's
Really?
slow. Yeah.
The
I use
only reason
Gmail,
I
but
go to
I
reason
never.
I go to Gmail is to get to my filters and my forwarding addresses and all my
Yeah.
settings, which is
And that was
stupid that it
always
wasn't part of Inbox.
exactly, that was always the thing that frustrated me about Inbox. Is like, why can I not set my filters in Inbox? Why do I have to go back to Gmail to set these stupid filters?
I guess I never
But-
realized that Inbox was a beta and was just their little test site.
Google was a beta. Gmail was beta for how many years? It was beta for like 10 years, I think.
Google News is still beta. Speaking of Google News, thank you, Eric. Have you heard the bad news coming out of England?
What's this?
The
You can't use memes anymore?
yeah.
Oh, is that really the story? Please go into that story, because I didn't catch it, and I'm like, wait, what's everybody talking about?
It's a bit of a shit show.
Really?
Yeah.
What is it?
So this is being implemented over a period of many, many years, and this was the earliest stage where you could catch it and tell them to stop, and and we failed. The two big concerns are Article 11 and Article 13. Article 11 is being called by the public the link tax article. And Article 13 is being called the filter, the universal filter.
Okay.
Article
Why is everybody associating him to memes?
Article 13 is the one that relates to memes, and it essentially says that if you have a large enough audience, you're required to automatically detect copyrighted material on behalf of the government and reject it pending manual approval. So the whole thing with memes is that memes are taken from copyrighted media, and then people add text to it and send it back out through Imager or other sharing programs. And under Article 13, Imager would have to put in place a filter that said any copyrighted media claimed by anybody for any reason is automatically rejected.
What?
So this came up earlier this week. Sony on YouTube took down a violinist's performance of a Mozart piece and stated, unilaterally they owned Mozart's works. It took quite a bit of effort, several days worth of effort, before Sony came out and said, yeah, we don't own Mozart's works. We own specific compositions and performances, and we accidentally overreached, maybe. But the big concern is that you can just sort of unilaterally say, this thing belongs to us. And once the first person does that, it gets really, really, really difficult to claim that they're wrong and that it actually belongs to somebody else or belongs to the public domain. Free use right now is already under incredible attack by media corporations. And this just gives them an automated system that forces companies like LinkedIn to do the work for them, or not LinkedIn, Imager. But if you handle public media in any way under Article 13, you'll be required to scan it for copyrighted material against one of their databases and reject your user's content.
So I missed the beginning. Was this an England or an EU thing? As somebody points out, England and the EU are no longer one and the same.
Yeah, this is the European Parliament, which will be implemented by individual EU member states after the final vote in January 2019.
You got some links you can throw on Trello?
I do. But the big one that I don't like is actually Article 11, which is the link tax. And the problem with the link tax is that they say if you use more than one word of a person's copyrighted material, then they are in a position where they can charge you a licensing fee for that material.
Wait, one word? What?
Yes. This, I believe, happened in Belgium before. The idea was to take aggregators and make them pay the original sources for the material that they're using. So Google News, as a news aggregator, would be required to pay the Belgian newspapers for the articles that they were linking and reproducing. The problem is, it was mandatory for them to license in the first iteration of this. And it might not be Belgium, but I'm pretty sure it was. So Google just said, yeah, Google News is dead in Belgium then. And traffic went down 17% across the board for news companies. But the implication here is that any platform where you would share something would be required to license linking to that thing. And
to this day,
I'm confused. Wait, I'm sorry. It's licensed linking to it?
I haven't read the entire contents of Article 11, but reproduction in part, which is to say the headline, which would be clickable and point to the original article, would be considered a licensable use.
Sorry, Eric, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Okay. It just blows me away. As I mentioned on a previous show, I still find it fascinating that these game companies don't charge some sort of licensing fee to these streamers who are making millions of dollars streaming their game all day long.
For the same reason that this failed in Belgium, which is that when they did the licensing, when licensing was enforced, sales went down.
But why is that not the issue with music? I mean, that very same streamer has to be very careful what music he has playing in the background because he'll get taken down for licensing infringements there.
Because
I don't get that.
Because fair use has not been properly fought in the Supreme Court in the United States yet.
Okay, I'm moving on. Anybody catch the Elon Musk interview on Joe Rogan's podcast? Joe Rogan Experience?
I just caught the one meme of it.
Well, I've seen the meme and I've seen other people posting things about it. End of the day, I'm a Californian. I don't care what people do.
I don't care about that. I wasn't bringing this up about the fact that he smoked a joint or a doobie that was so irrelevant. And if you watch the thing, he only
fat joint. That was an enormous joint.
He took a puff. And it wasn't all pot. It was tobacco and
it was a blunt.
Yeah, it was a blunt, exactly. Which I actually have not experienced yet. I've always wanted to do a blunt, so I need to put that on my bucket list. But that might have been the first time I'd seen that sort of interview with Elon Musk. I've seen interviews with Elon Musk in the past that were like professional interviews on a particular topic, SpaceX, Tesla, whatever. But Joe Rogan, it was a very casual sort of interview where he was like shooting off the cuff and asking him a huge range of questions, of just like common man questions. And I'm just a bigger fan of Elon Musk now. First thing, to see how he processes information, like you can see his little alien brain, firing off neutrons before he answers. And he's just like, the way he speaks and how thorough he is with answers. Why are you laughing so hard about that?
It was funny. It was creative.
The way
I think you meant his lizard brain neurons. You
And how
said his
thorough-
alien brain neutrons.
How thorough he is with his answers. I'm just so impressed. I think I have now added him to my list with Bill Gates of people I would love to meet in real life.
But have you
Like, I
heard
would-
the theory? Have you heard the theory about why he's going on this self-destructive sort of bender right now?
Why are you going to ruin this for me? What is his theory?
When he announced that he was going to take Tesla private on Twitter, the FCC started an
Mothership is coming to pick him up. Yeah.
The FCC started an investigation to establish whether or not he actually had the funds to take Tesla private. Because if you make the claim that you're going to go private, but you don't have the funds, that's a federal crime.
Right.
So the theory that I keep seeing is that he's on this crazy self-destructive binge to tank the price of Tesla stock so that it gets within a reachable buyback value.
That seems pretty far-fetched. Has the stock of Tesla been dropping?
Tanking.
Really?
Why?
Because he's calling guys pedophiles on Twitter. He's going on Joe Rogan and smoking weed and saying, man, I don't know. And there's been a whole load of scandals following him around lately that he just seems to have intentionally drummed up. It seems like he's intentionally bringing into question.
He also did a recent interview on MKHBD? Nope.
Oh, really?
MKBHD? Yeah.
No idea what that is.
What? You don't know MKBHD?
You don't even know it. What are you
It's
scolding me for?
It's Marquez Brown HD. And he doesn't... But...
MBHD?
No, MKBHD.
Oh my God.
I love his content. He's an Ultimate player, so I love him for that. And he's a great tech reviewer. And he just sat down with Elon Musk and did a great interview there. He got to tour the Tesla factory.
Oh yeah, watch that.
So that wasn't self-destructive.
So it's not tanking. I mean, it did peak in June, July, August. I mean, it did get up to 370, it got up to 379. It's back down to 280, but that's where it's been like all year.
No, but when it peaked was when he announced about going private and started this campaign of doing interviews with basically anybody.
Don't ruin this for me. I like the guy.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist, so
yeah. I want a Tesla.
Whatever. Except the Earth is flat. That I know.
That's true.
For sure. I got a question about that. We've
done it before. You know, we've talked about it
flat
before.
earthers. I know we've talked about it. The flat earthers. I know they have this idea.
Why are you referring to us as a thing?
No, that's fine.
Yeah, John. I know you have a thing where you think like the moon and the sun are hovering around this flat Earth. But my question is, do flat earthers acknowledge that the moon and the sun are globes? Or
Yes.
are they?
Yeah,
they do.
Yeah.
So
We
why
do.
can't
Yes,
the
we
Earth
do.
be a globe?
Yeah, we do.
You guys stop it. You have got to stop. This is why we're not selling tickets to Wave PHP, because of this sort of crap right here.
The Flat Earth
carry this
Conference,
for so much longer.
the Flat Earth Conference had more ticket sales than Wave PHP has.
Yes. Yeah. There's something to be proud of.
Members from around the globe.
Anyway,
Why is it that the Earth can absolutely not be a globe, but those two objects can?
Because God made Earth.
Yeah. Just look outside. Flat. Duh.
You're flat. You're flat. I'm not going. You're not fooling me. You're not fooling me into this. It was a simple question, but
because I've told you in the past, there's two people involved in the flat Earth thing: the people who think it's hilarious, and the people who believe it.
I think there's a third segment. The especially YouTubers that respond to it, making it a thing to make other people think that it's a thing.
That's what
Making it
that's
bigger.
how I feel. Like every video is
The
that.
people laughing.
Like
It's the trolls.
Every video is
Yeah.
somebody trolling.
All the
There you go,
videos
yeah.
are. All the videos are until someone makes a video where they try to explain a video that they watched. They're the person who takes it seriously, and everyone's pointing at and laughing. I was involved in the flat Earth stuff a number of years back because it's really
seriously.
Yeah,
because you were a believer.
No,
or a questioner.
No, I was one of the people
trying to debunk the flat earthers.
No, I was one of the people anti-debunking. I was one of the people who was reading and repeating the crazy theories that could debunk a normal scientist mind. That was the thing, is that this is a debate club game. When you're in debate club in high school, you have to play devil's advocate sometimes. You have to take a position you don't want to take. And those are the same people who really enjoyed playing devil's advocate, who are on the side of flat earthers, coming up with new theories, coming up with pseudoscientific stuff that looks like it could work out. The people who are on debate club are not just bored of it now that they're out of high school. They keep doing it into college. They keep
But they
doing
get stupid people to believe them and continue.
Right. And that's
crap.
hilarious. And it's hilarious. And every time
it runs its course.
Every time it happens, every time some new celebrity says, well, yeah, the Earth's flat, there's an uproarious laughter and then billions of retweets.
But what about the disruption to humanity that it causes? The fact that scientists actually have to take time now to try to explain to high school students why the Earth is not actually flat. And
society is simple.
I've watched way too many videos of people talking to their kids saying the Earth's flat, right? And it's like, don't teach your kids that.
No, teach your kids that. That's fine, because what it does is it instills skepticism in children. When you say, of course, everything says the Earth is round, but this small group says it's flat, it instills in children that they should investigate things for themselves and know the actual evidence and be able to determine truth from fiction. And it's an important skill to have. It's the people that fail this test that everyone points and laughs at. But there are plenty of people.
Again, it's kids, I think, believe their parents the most because they have the most time with them.
Yeah, no, parents.
If your parents truly believe the things that they're teaching their kids, a lot of the times it sends them astray.
I don't know. It's nice at some point to be 25 and understand for the first time the fallibility of your own parents.
Yeah. Santa Claus is real.
That's true.
We were asked if we would talk about working remote again. And I thought that was I know we're running long here, so we might have to save this. Although we're not going to have a show next week. So, we're not. I know that's what I said. We're not going to have a show next week.
We're not running long. Shut up.
We're not having a show this week, clearly. But I thought it was an interesting time for that to come up because John and I, we've been in negotiation and talking through a couple of scenarios of establishing a DiegoDev office again. That's a little different because we own a business. We have other variables to think about. It's not just us working remote anymore. But yeah, I thought it was just interesting timing that here we are, John and I are talking about the benefits and drawbacks of having an office, and do we want to establish an office again? And I think as of today, we kind of agreed that we did and started that process. But
there's a new con to it. So there's a ton of pros to working from home. The fact that I walk out of my office at 5 p.m. and I'm with my kids. There's no travel. It's amazing.
Okay, what are the pros?
No con. He said there's a big con.
Yeah, no, that's the con.
Oh, I get what you said. I did that shit you did there. That was man. Caught me off guard.
that was good. there is something to leaving your spouse for a work day and then having to come back to them. I've heard of other people saying that actually work with their spouse in the same job. What?
I mean, you make a good point. My wife never wonders if I'm going to come home tonight.
Well, I mean, there's not that.
I'm giving her a little too much leeway. I want her to wonder. I want her to wonder on a regular basis. He seemed upset when he left this morning. I wonder if he's coming back.
I think it's different. My wife is a stay-at-home mom. The hardest job on earth, taking care of kids, because I would not do that. It's a pain in the ass. She does it. But the fact is, I walk out to get coffee, or I walk out for any other reason, get lunch, and we're in the same house. So we were talking, it might be nice to have an office to have
start to piss off the girlfriend.
Making those office romances really awkward, I tell you.
Although, I mean, it simplifies some things. There's a bedroom right there.
Oh, you guys are too much.
So I really am excited to revisit this in 10 years when you've got teenagers. Because
I've gone through that.
The shift from being in a house with 8-year-olds and working from home and being in a house with 15-year-olds and working from home is dramatic.
No, I'm saying it's a good idea to get out of the house right now and have an office to go to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have to admit, as much as I love working from home, and as much as I feel like I have moments, not too frequently, but moments of humongous productivity working from home, I also feel myself slipping a lot working from home. You know, I'll walk out to get a sandwich, and the wife or kids are watching something on television, and maybe I stand there and linger too long, or, you know what, I do need to run a few errands. I'm here. I'll catch up on work after 5 o'clock. Let me go run these errands. Oh yeah, I do that. I do that probably way too much.
But you're also at your desk all the friggin' time. I mean,
yeah,
you'll be working at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys.
I think that's where that having an office helps me, because it allows me to separate that a little bit, especially if I physically take all my hardware out of my house, which is one of the things we're talking about doing if we get an office. If I did that and just like had my laptop at home, yeah, there's pros and cons to it for sure. I don't know, man. I still don't particularly want to go to an office every day, though.
But the office is like 10 feet from your house. You walk out the door and you're gonna walk there.
I am planning on moving all the podcasting stuff there and podcasting from there. Like,
really?
Like what? Yeah. Like, why do I even have it here at the house? I'll just put it all there. That way,
because it's 10 o'clock at night and you're gonna leave your house to go podcast.
But like you said, it's 10 feet away. So what's the problem?
It is right.
At least that way, the wife who works from home as well, you know, she's arranged her schedule so she doesn't work on Thursdays, but now she picks that time up on the weekend. So I feel kind of bad about that. She could go back to working on Thursdays and have the weekend off, and you know, it's not that far of a drive for me to go to the office that we were looking at today, assuming that's the office we settle on. For me to go there and podcast wouldn't be that.
You could walk there faster than getting into your car and starting it.
I could actually drive my stolen Vespa, whatever that thing is, my stolen scooter there without getting caught. I don't know. John, not John. I don't care about John. John's been doing this too long. Thomas, you've been doing this for a while. You are a true remote worker. Where
I really am. It's like 5 years now.
You know, you work for a business. Not only do you work for a business, a company that, well, I don't know how they are now, but until they hired you, they were traditionally all in-house. Like they wouldn't hire remote. I believe you were the first remote developer that they hired.
It was, and now they're almost all remote.
Really?
Project manager.
So clearly
two
they
other
see an
developers.
advantage to it.
Yeah.
So let me ask questions here then. So clearly they see a benefit of it. Have you spoken to your boss? What is your boss remote or is your boss still in-house?
He is occasionally remote now.
See, I feel like bosses should always be in-house. Like for a boss to be remote is BS. I will say,
and he knows that when he needs to get work done, he can go home and get work done instead of going to a meeting.
Yeah, and let me point this out for people who are wondering if it's good to work remote. That really falls on your reporting structure and how your supervisor so much more falls on their shoulder of being a good supervisor. Like when everybody's in house, there are managers that are, in my opinion, are just glorified babysitters. They just make sure that the developers show up. They make sure the developers stay there 8 hours a day, and that they're not spending too much time at the coffee machine. When your staff, when your workforce is remote, that same manager all of a sudden now has to work. They have to establish goals. They have to track productivity. They have to make sure that communication is happening, that everybody understands where everybody's at. That's probably the biggest obstacle with making your workforce remote. For somebody who's like a developer, who's in the trenches, who's getting code done, where they do it from really is not big of a deal.
When they do it isn't that big of a deal either.
We let's circle back around on that one. But a developer like Thomas, not to say you're just a developer, but you may be a lead developer, but your focus is developing. The fact that you're developing at home or you're developing in a cubicle, it should still be measured the same way. It's not always that the case, but it should be measured the same way. The fact that you're remote, the requirement to have some sort of metrics in place to measure your productivity is a little bit more important. But for managers and supervisors, that's where work gets not hard, but you have to do some work. It's just no two ways about it.
I think there's interpersonal relationships that you have to maintain when you're a project manager or something like that, but there's also the employee to think about. So recently, one of our project managers, our project manager, moved out of state, and I was really surprised because I thought, well, you have to be in constant communication with everybody as part of your job. And the reality of it is that she most likely assured the company that she could maintain that level of communication remotely, and that she was going to move one way or another. So they were either going to have to replace her or accept the minor inconvenience of a teleconference call instead of an in-person meeting. Mm-hmm. It's that the talent, the domain-specific knowledge that she has is so valuable that she's able to leverage it and get the remote position.
Right. So let me ask you a question. What do you feel your avenues of communication are as good, better, or worse when you work remote as to maybe somebody who might be in person?
Better.
Yeah.
Much better. One of the things I learned when I was working for the Navy is the importance of the chain of command. And when I went back from working in the Navy and the chain of command in the Navy into private sector, I found that the chain of command gets followed by the people below. So don't talk to your boss's boss, but your boss's boss, if he sees you in the hallway, he'll fucking talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Navy, your boss's boss will not talk to you unless something is very wrong.
Mm-hmm.
He will say hi and shake your hand, but he will not discuss work with you because it's his subordinate's job to speak with me. But in private sector, man, owners of companies will come up to lackeys all the time and say, "Hey, how's this warehouse thing going?" And the lackey's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. That's delegated to somebody else, or you have the wrong terminology, or I don't." Like, the last thing I want is somebody who's not involved in the decision-making process for the specific work that I'm doing to ask me how things are going or to do something specific for them.
So you like the fact that you just can't randomly run into people.
I don't remember that Thomas was in the Army.
No, I worked for the Navy.
I don't remember when were you in the Air Force? I don't recall that.
He wore that big chief hat and the Spanx. Yeah.
I did tech support. I did tech support for the military.
We've talked about it.
I got fired.
We've talked about it on shows past. John, I don't know if you were a part of that show or not because you're so cold and hot. We never can tell when you're here.
Hit and miss.
I'm trying to miss as often as I can, but
there was an episode. I don't know if you remember this. In fact, I'm sure you don't. I'm sure you don't.
Just on a roll.
But there was an episode where John actually showed up for the podcast and didn't speak for the whole episode.
Eric, what were you trying to say?
Working remote, are there any tools that you feel that that help you work remote? Obviously, there's things like Slack for communication, but like you personally, this reaches out to you as well, Thomas. I know for me, it's my to-do list. Like my to-do-ist, I can't live without that. That dictates my day.
Yeah,
do you guys have
some sort of task manager. Make sure you stay on task. Git, as far as keeping my code in line and having people be able to comment on it and make my changes better, and sometimes annoyingly so. Slack is a pain in the ass, and I love it and hate it at the same time. So I tend to turn off my notifications unless I'm mentioned. And that, to me, that's important. That's just like if I'm sitting in an office and random people just come up and start talking to me, unless you are having a conversation with me directly for some specific reason, leave me alone. So I'm a big fan of turning off notifications. For
me, it's Homestead.
Homestead?
What is Homestead?
Homestead is the Laravel Vagrant auto-built container.
Continue.
No?
I have no clue what you're talking about.
A while back.
Are you being funny or are you being serious?
Me?
He's messing with you, Thomas.
Is he?
Yeah.
I think not.
You're not?
Okay,
I'm sorry.
What is it called on Mac where it auto manages your host file?
There's nothing on Mac that auto manages.
Gas mask?
No. The Laravel development environment.
You're talking about for Valet?
Valet is a script for Homestead. Homestead.
That Homestead?
Yes.
Valet is not a script for Homestead.
Yes, it is.
Are you using Docker?
I'm not using Docker yet. I've tried to move.
Okay, that's the issue. I'm confused.
Talking about Thomas.
Can we mute Eric? Wow, it worked.
Because you don't know what you're talking about. You're making us look bad.
Didn't work.
Go ahead, Thomas. I'll mute myself. Go ahead.
Vagrant, Homestead, Docker. Without those things, remote development would be impossible. Eric's muted himself. Without Vagrant, Homestead, or Docker, without Valet, the development cycle that we have at my company would fundamentally not work. We would have problems related to person's operating system, specific version of PHP, specific version of MySQL, all of those things. are essential to having a workflow remotely. And from there, I can build up. From there, I can say there's web applications like Jira, Trello. I wish I could use Trello more at work. We use Google Docs for a lot of our bug tracking stuff when we're doing crunch time. I think Vagrant and Homestead go unsung. What are you giggling about?
The fact that I muted Eric and he hasn't unmuted himself yet.
Unmute him.
I can't. I can only mute.
Oh, look, it's that time of the show. Eric
we're
goes
running
silent.
so long.
We're not running wrong. Running long.
Wrong. We are. Ready to wrap this up. I'm ready to wrap up Wave PHP. It's that time.
Can I tell you I have the greatest story I've heard in months?
Only if it's the last story of the night and we can hang up.
Eric has to unmute himself, or else we're just going to sit here in silence.
Then I can say, I'm John Congdon.
No, you can't.
Keep it ugly.
I will edit that out.
What? So just to be clear, your Homestead and Valet are not the same thing. They're not wrappers from one to the other. Two completely different products. There.
Good job, Eric. You are correct.
Oh, yeah, I was wrong.
Now I feel bad for muting you. I was trying to be funny and it backfired on me.
No, that worked. It was still funny. You guys know the television.
This is why nobody takes us seriously. And I gotta stop
this is
screaming.
not why.
We were told I have to stop screaming in the mic. I apologize.
It's okay. I normalized you. The last podcast, I normalized all our channels together, so your screaming went unnoticed.
So I can whisper like this.
No.
We're gonna wrap it up with something.
If you have a Vizio television, it more than likely was spying on your television watching habits.
I didn't have to be unmuted for this.
I
actually don't have to be on the show for this.
The super awesome part about this is that after having been discovered and then sued, the same technology that allowed them to spy on users is now being mandatorily applied to notify users that they should sue Vizio.
Isn't this an old story?
It's an old story. It's an old story that Vizio was spying on you. The new story is that a court has mandated that Vizio televisions on a specific date will notify their users of how to sue Vizio and why. So that a message will pop up on the screen explaining that Vizio has violated your rights and that you can sue them by going to a URL and that you are entitled to compensation for the violation of your rights. And I think that is just such perfect karma for this kind of bullshit.
Why would they agree to do that, first of all?
Agree to the notification to sue them? Because it's a class action lawsuit.
Yeah, sounds like you don't have a choice.
Yeah, they don't have a choice at all. They lost a class action lawsuit, and this is the methodology that was determined to notify people who are to be included.
But, I mean that's about as guaranteed as sending an email, right? You don't know who's watching it at that time or what they're comprehending when you send it. Okay. Cute.
It'd be like me. I just said okay, whatever. Get out of my way.
Yeah. My kids go to watch something, they see that pop up, like what, and just click through it. I see what they're doing. Cute. Yeah, karma, whatever. I'm not impressed.
You want doom and gloom, fuckers?
No, I don't.
That was the last story.
I think we're done. Nope. That's it.
No,
Wave
I'm
PHP,
John
that's your doom and gloom. Wave PHP next week, doom and gloom.
Five Eyes Intelligence Services.
Oh my
man.
gosh, he's really pushing through with this. I'm hanging up.
We're gonna what? 5 Eyes?
It's 11:20. I'm ready. I got things
It's
to do before I go to bed.
12:20.
Then go to
Gotta
bed.
go.
No,
You
I'm
gotta
gonna
be
watch.
up in 4 hours.
I'm waiting. I'm gonna watch
Thank
the finale
you
for
for
Great British Bake
listening
Off.
to this episode 121 of PHP Ugly. We do truly appreciate you taking the time to hear us out and hear us ramble. We will
sorry
not
that-
be here next week.
We 100% will be.
We will actually be hugging. We will be having a group hug next week during our regular show time.
There will be.
I will live stream with my 360 camera next week. The three of us hugging it out, and everybody can see that Thomas and I, we really don't get along that well.
It'll be the most awkward hug you've ever seen on camera.
Yeah, when Eric says there's not enough room in this convention hall for the both of us, he means it. Physically, you need to get out of the doorway.
Okay, that's it. I really hope to see people at Wave PHP, and definitely make sure you come up and let us know
absolutely
if you listen to the show.
We need to stop right now. We're at 1 hour 21 minutes. This is episode 121. I'm John Congdon. Keep it
Wave
ugly.
PHP, Wave PHP. I'm Eric Van Johnson.
Don't forget to visit the Discord. I'm Tom Rideout.
Keep it ugly.
Keep it
Keep it
ugly.
ugly.
That
You
was
like that?
horrible.
Mine says 1 hour 21 minutes. Perfect.
Really?
121.
All right, don't go off air yet, though.
We've got to stop recording. You can keep the stream going, I guess, for the watch us like duke it out.
I wanted to.
That was horrible. I refuse to pay anybody for the show. That was terrible. Nobody's
not-
getting a check for this show.
Yeah, no one is ever getting a check for this show. I mean, I get the check from Patreon, but I never get a check from you.
What are we talking about?
Keep it quick. I got things to do.
Thursday.
I'll pick you up, Thomas. When do you fly in? Message me. I'll come pick you up.
Yeah. All right.
As long as you don't fly into LA. I'm not picking you up from LA.
No, I might be out of it.
Intoxicated. That's fine.
No,
I probably will be too.
not intoxicated.
We'll send a car for you.
Nah, I'm gonna have to take Xanax to get on this one. I'm losing my shit. Like every time I think about it, like every time I think of Tuesday, I just like break out into cold sweats. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Why? You're coming to visit us. You're going to hang out with us for 3 days.
You're not flying with anybody, right?
No, it's just me. Ugh.
Just
It's
think about us.
My anxiety. I realized when my wife went away for a month, I realized that like even with no deadlines or nothing to do, it still took me 3 hours to get out of the house from when I decided I wanted to leave the house.
I thought you had overcome this stuff, but after you moved to
I
Colorado.
overcame very specific elements of it that
I'm
restricted.
seeing pictures of you hiking and going to ball games and all sorts of things
yeah.
that you never did here in San Diego.
That's the stuff I've overcome, which is like doing something with my wife or family. But the thing is that I found out that there's these other barriers that I built up that I haven't overcome that I thought I did. And like one of them is just stepping foot outside the house is still really difficult. And I just didn't know that because I haven't done it in so long. Like I regularly went out to dinner at 10 o'clock when my wife was gone because I got hungry at 7 o'clock and it took me 3 hours to just decide that I had everything I needed to leave the house. It's weird shit.
Well, we have Joe Ferguson coming, right? He's a speaker,
Yep.
isn't he?
Yep.
You should make sure you take some time and talk to Joe about OSMI. I know that they have a podcast. I've been pimping to try to get you on the podcast, but clearly they haven't. I don't even know if they still have their podcast, to be honest with you.
He's doing DevOps for small teams.
Well, they.
Wow, he
OSMI
looks just like me. That's terrifying.
He's a good guy, though. He's nice. He's nice, and he smells better than you too.
Not lately. Check out the beard.
Yeah, I see how clean that is. I was just thinking I gotta do something with mine. Mine's just been growing in.
I met a
it doesn't
guy.
look like you're doing a podcast anymore. Shoot, that's disappointing.
I met
You
a
got
guy.
all of 5 in.
I met a guy who had a beautiful beard, and I asked him how he did it, and he said, "I have a lot of free time." Basically meant like he had a half hour a day to do beard care.
Yeah, I got the wife bought me oil for my beard. I guess I should take that as a hint to either my beard was stinking or it was scratchy to her face.
Yeah, you know what the oil is? It turns out it's just beard perfume. It doesn't do anything.
So it's stinking. It's stinking. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
That's her way of
anti-stinky.
telling me it stinks.
No, I got drunk the other night and I pulled out the number 3 comb on my razor and I just went balls out and I was like, oh shit, I have chin definition. That's interesting. And so now I know I can just like do this really fast and I've got like a nicely trimmed beard. I'm getting on a personal hygiene kick lately.
I've been thinking like John and I, we've been wearing DiegoDev t-shirts every day for like the last 3 or 4 years. And I've really been thinking about like kicking up my wardrobe game a little bit.
I did that a month ago.
Did you?
Yeah.
Like specifically stop wearing t-shirts, wear some button downs, maybe wear slacks and not shorts all the time.
I took the first step, which is no screen printed tees. So now it's just these like pocket here, formal tees. I went and got some new shorts. I was having a conversation with my wife where I said to her, "Hey, did I fall asleep on the couch the other night?" And she said, "Oh yeah," and started off a list of like me getting angry and ranting about something. And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. You don't complain about me doing that anymore." And then I said, "Oh shit, you don't complain about me doing that anymore, so I don't know when I did it."
Okay.
So I realized that she's compromising on certain things that I didn't know she was compromising on, as opposed to the things I wanted her to compromise on.
All right, I'm hanging up. Why are we still broadcasting? That's what I want to know.
We're hitting up the
Discord.
Nobody's responding.
These are our Patreon. No, there's 6 people watching.
All right, that's it. I'm stopping the broadcast.
For just $5 a month, you can feed me